What's going on, everybody? The real Sherif M here, aka Manganas Steel, with another video in the series of sort of designer highlights. And unfortunately for me, I only have one knife by this particular designer. Actually, he's not a designer, he's a knife maker. Most of the knives that I have in my series are actually by knife makers. But this is the Blocao by Miguel Barbudo. And this is a knife that honestly I feel was slept on when it was made and retailed to the public. It is a really, really nice knife. To be 100% honest, it's the only Wii knife that I own, actually. And it is exceptional. The construction, the build quality is phenomenal on this guy. And really, I think part of the reason why it wasn't as popular when it was released was first the size. It is a very big knife. And two, a lot of people were really scared by the opening mechanism and closing mechanism on it. But it's kind of a signature thing for Miguel Barbudo. And really, once you understand the nature of the thing, then it's not that intimidating. But people are funny creatures. So let's kind of talk about this. This is a beautiful pseudo bolster lock. As you can see when I switched it over to this side, there is no lock bar here. And that's because, as you can see here, it's kind of a backlock mechanism, but it's not really. This is called, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me below in the comments, a window lock. So it's very similar to a backlock, but when you deploy the blade, you see there's a little notch right here that actually falls into place and is held by this window in the backlock. And this is a Miguel Barbudo kind of tradition. He does this with a lot of his custom handmade knives. Now take a look at that. That is a serious clip point blade with a lot of belly, I guess you could say. It's not really like flat, it's curved almost the whole way through. This is by all means a very big knife. So for comparison, let's take my premium Grazioso here and put it up end to end, and you're seeing almost like, I almost want to say like 2 inches of difference in the overall length. And in my opinion, the Grazioso's not a huge knife. It's a nice balanced EDC size, but this guy is a beefcake in comparison. But having said that, this is a really, really well executed knife. If you're like me and you have extra large to double extra large hands, this thing feels like a dream in the hands. These chamfers right here in the carbon and the titanium just melt the knife into your hand. There's no sharp edges whatsoever throughout. There is an ever so slight amount of contouring on the scales, maybe. No, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there's a little bit of contouring here, and it's a little bit on the thicker side. Let's see what we got here. In millimeters, it comes in at about 14.96 millimeters. And in inches, it comes in at 0.59 inches. So it's a thick boy. The blade stock thickness comes in at 0.1565, or right at about 4 millimeters thick. So this is a beefy knife by all measure. And if you're like me, you do like a little bit of a bigger, beefier knife, you will not be let down by this guy at all. One of my followers, Gothic Hangman, saw this. I posted about it on my Instagram feed. He was so in love with it, he went and picked it up like right away. He found one on eBay, because unfortunately these are discontinued. And man, like, I really wish that the reviewers had done this guy a bit of justice. Now, what is the big concern with this knife? Why did it scare a lot of people off? And it's really this. When you disengage the backlock, this thing just... you want to talk about drop shut. This thing is able to just glide on the bearings completely loose. And so they kind of called it a bit of a finger guillotine. From my perspective, I really do think that they should have put this on bushings. It would have slowed that down a little bit and not made this thing feel so dangerous. But there is considerations for that here. Like, if you keep a 4-finger grip on it and you keep your index finger forward, you can actually control the blade. See? Like, it's not dropping on my fingers. So then you can get your hand around, two-hand close it. There is also a technique that I have for, you know, one-handing it, and it's this. Flip it upside down, let it drop with your fingers completely out of the way, and you just close it shut. It's not that hard. And I think they made it into something much more than it was just because of the size. A lot of people were really intimidated by the size of this. But as you can see, I can do that over and over again. The other concern with this, with the window lock, is you can snap it open, but you really got to add the wrist flick in there, because if you don't, this guy can actually bounce and against the spring and come back and close. And given for how sharp this knife really is, this is not a knife that I hand to people who are inexperienced with knives. And even people who are experienced with knives, I tell them, just slow roll it. It's just the way to go. It's way more convenient. You can really get the use out of it. I personally absolutely love every element about this knife. I mean, usually I don't go for little sections like this, but given the size of this knife, I don't complain, because really you've got to have the hands of Andre the Giant for that to like create a hot spot. The size and shaping of the finger grooves is perfect. The fit and finish of this thing is absolutely immaculate. Has a nice clip that just gives you enough to draw it out of the pocket easily. And, you know, man, like this thing, if you really want to go out there and do work, this is a great pocket knife for that. I mean, not every one of us want to necessarily carry, you know, a fixed blade like this guy all the time. And actually, if you look at it, it's an even slightly bigger blade than the Hinderer right here, you know? So it does give you the option of having something that is a bit big and massive, can do the work of damn near a fixed blade, honestly, because it is difficult to break this window lock, but you can do damn near everything a fixed blade does within reason of a pocket knife with something that you can fold and put away in your pocket. And that's kind of what this is meant for, honestly. And again, the reviewers at the time when this thing came out really were trying to, hold this up to the standard of some of the more EDC kind of knives, like the Bug Out. And you can't even compare it. Like, it's not even remotely close to the same category of knife at all. Really, this thing should be kind of looked at as almost like a folding, fixed blade style knife, and less of like an EDC sort of pocket knife like the Bug Out, But personally, I think every element of this is beautifully done. My real only complaint has to do with really. Excuse me. They did this in a black tone finish and the marble carbon fiber and this sort of dark stone wash. And I've never been a fan of this dark stone wash, honestly. Like, it's even darker than, this bead blasted finish that you see on the Grazioso. Or if you look at, something that's more polished, like my Pena, like, this could have been this bright. Or it could have been, even this bright. But instead, it's fairly dark. And they threw on these really, like, blingy, chromy thumb studs, and they just stonewashed the whole blade. Like, they could have given it a little bit of character difference between the flats and the primary bevel here. That would have really given this a little bit more flash and a little bit more character. I think they kind of knocked down the potential of this. But look at how beautiful the swedge is, the blade shape is. This thing just really is a looker to me, and it's part of why I have it in my collection. And again, this is a knife that I've used. I don't know if you can kind of see it in the stone wash. It's definitely got some roughing in it, and there's like some stains from some stuff here. I don't even remember what that's from at this point. But this is a beautiful knife meant to be used. Something that I've always admired, though, is this blade shape. And there's a subtle hump right here in the in this swedge section that I have never been able to replicate. It's just something that you could only really get these exaggerated proportions with a blade of this size. It doesn't translate well to a smaller knife. And that's where Miguel really, like, it just shows off kind of his capability as a knife maker, He's able to just draw out these details, draw out these proportions, and still make something that's incredibly functional, and I think something that's absolutely beautiful. So give Miguel a follow on Instagram, really. Let him know Manganas Steel sent you. He is a really, really nice guy. He rides a lot on horseback. He goes hunting a bit, and he takes, a Blocao like this as his knife when he goes out there. And I totally get it, man. This thing is a beast of a knife. So I hope you like this little look at it and you're not too intimidated by this window lock mechanism. I think it's very interesting. It's the only knife actually that I've seen in the last few years that have even feature this kind of locking mechanism. It's like a back lock with that, and you can see once you release it, the blade is free to move, you know? So, yeah, like, just crazy, crazy knife that I absolutely love. And again, not one that I don't think I'd ever get rid of this, honestly. I like it way too much, and the details, the chamfering, everything is just so on point with this. So if you like this, man, see if you can pick one up on eBay. They're definitely hard to come by, but I'm a big fan. And you may be wondering why I review knives that are not available. It's not about reviewing the knives that necessarily are available. It's about highlighting good design. And it's been a little while since we've seen really interesting products like this on the market. And I think the market is worse off for that, to be 100% honest. So, yeah, give this guy a look. Give Miguel a shout. And be nice to one another. Love you guys. Thank you for hopping in the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this guy. And I'll catch you in the next one.